Swiss Sally is the long-awaited mouse of the day, and she's always had a big dream ever since she was little. She wasn't just a dreamer, though. She was actually an innovator as well. And what was her dream, you ask? To become the first mouse to fly to the moon. Why the moon? Cheddar asked one day lazily, gnawing on a cracker laying back in his corner. It's so far away. We got plenty of cheese right here. Sally rolled her eyes. You don't get it, Cheddar. The moon isn't just a big rock in the sky. According to great-grandma's old stories, the moon is made out of Swiss cheese. Yeah, Swiss cheese. Think about it. Cheese with holes big enough to dive into, an endless supply of cheese for all the mice. I've got holes in my cheese right here, Cheddar said, as he held a very ordinary block of cheese, not really caring what Swiss Sally had to say. I don't have to take a rocket to get any cheese. Pleading Patrick was always the nervous type, so when he heard about this plan, he chimed in and said, but what if there's no oxygen? Or what if there's giant alien cats? Or worse, what if there's no cheese at all? Sally smirked and said, there's only one way to find out, Pleading Patrick. And months passed, and Sally's space mission became the talk of the mouse community. Most mice thought that she was crazy, of course. I mean, who builds a rocket out of a soup can, a rubber band, and a balloon? But Swiss Sally had nothing but determination, and she knew that she had to make this happen. She worked tirelessly sketching plans, assembling parts, and occasionally stealing humans' tools to help her build the Swiss rocket. When launch day arrived, and the entire mouse population of the farmhouse was here, everyone had their eyes on Swiss Sally to see how her launch would go. It didn't look like much, but a soup can from Soup Sebastian, a balloon on top, and a spring mechanism is all she needed to send her into space, and she was very proud of her design. She also had a makeshift helmet from a bottle cap and a plastic bubble from some bubble wrap, and she said, I present to you the Swiss rocket. Today I will fly to the moon, bring back Swiss cheese, and prove to everyone that I'm not crazy. There is Swiss cheese on the moon. The moon is made of Swiss cheese. Pleading Patrick, Cheddar, and Nibbles were all in the front row offering moral support. And in Patrick's case, he was actually panicking and said, please don't go, please. He was tugging at Swiss Sally's tail nervously, trying to get her to stay. What if the balloon pops? What if? Swiss Sally had to assure Pleading Patrick that everything would be okay. And she said, hey, at least if I die, maybe there will be a cheese afterlife. You're not helping, Pleading Patrick said as he was getting really terrified for Swiss Sally to leave. Swiss Sally tried to reassure Patrick, and basically this was all she could do at this point. So Swiss Sally started to climb in, but as soon as she started to climb into her Swiss rocket, a familiar, unsettling face crept into the scene. It was Creepy Clown Chris. His face was painted with smudged makeup, and his fur was a little bit too ruffled. With that permanent, eerie grin as per usual, he's just looking so creepy. He was the mouse who always showed up to parties uninvited, performing weird clown acts that left the audience a little bit more uncomfortable than entertained, to be honest. He was just a pretty creepy mouse all around. He said, going to the moon, are we? In his ominous voice that was just creepy as per usual. I could do some juggling or a little balloon art. Sally stepped back and she was getting really scared. She said, no thanks, Chris. I'm pretty sure I'll be fine up there. Chris leaned in closer with his creepy smile widening as he whispered, but what if the moon isn't made out of Swiss cheese? What if it's made out of something much worse? Sally blinked, unsettled, and said, okay, thanks for the input, Creepy Clown Chris, but I've got this covered, thanks. As Chris drew back into the shadows, still grinning like a maniac, Simon Squeaks-a-Lot squeaked, I have a bad feeling about this. Squeak! Sally rolled her eyes, trying to just ignore all this chitter-chatter, and got into her rocket. With a final wave to the crowd, she pulled the lever. Boing! With a loud spring sound, the Swiss rocket got into the air, and she left the farmhouse behind, all her friends returning into little tiny dots as she got further and further away from them. Goodbye, Earth. Hello, Swiss cheese, Sally squeaked with excitement as she ascended into the darkness of space. She knew she was going to make it to the moon. She was very confident because she had some great engineering that went into this. Turns out space travel is a lot faster when you're a mouse with a soup can rocket, as opposed to a full human that has to have a huge rocket. Just a little tiny rocket can go a lot faster. As the Swiss rocket gently touched down on the lunar surface, Sally jumped out and immediately started exploring. She was so excited. She honestly knew she was going to make it this whole time, but it was unreal to be there. It's really cheese, she squeaked, her eyes wide. The moon wasn't just made out of Swiss cheese, it was the most delicious Swiss cheese ever. Swiss Sally was taking a bunch of nibbles of the ground and just savoring the most delicious Swiss she'd ever had. But just as she was gathering chunks of cheese to bring back to Earth, Sally noticed something very strange. A small balloon twisted into one of those weird shapes that Creepy Clown Chris likes to make, and was lying in one of the craters of the moon. Her heart skipped a beat and she was just terrified. No way. But before Sally could really fully react, she heard a weird giggle echoing across the moon's surface, and slowly she turned, and there he was, creepy clown Chris, creeping out from behind a chunk of cheese. Wow, he is just creepy as ever. You didn't think I'd let you have all the fun, did you? Chris giggled as there was a weird, creepy grin across his face as per usual. The moon is our stage now. Sally backed away and her paws were shaking. How'd you get here? Chris pulled out another balloon, twisting it into an even creepier, weird shape with way too many ears. You think you're the only one who can build a rocket, huh? I've been working on my own rocket to follow you here. But before Sally could even really say anything, the surface of the moon started cracking and these weird worms started emerging that were really weird and squishy, but they were also terrifying. They had huge teeth and they were honestly just monsters. That's all I could describe them as monsters. And Sally said, "The cheese on the moon is alive?" What? These worms were slithering towards her in a very creepy and terrifying way. Creepy Clown Chris somehow organized this. And I don't know exactly, to be honest, if these worms were on the moon naturally or Creepy Clown Chris brought them. But I think it's safe to say that Creepy Clown Chris did know about these worms and did know that Swiss Sally would be super creeped out by them. So she actually just bolted to her rocket and got right in and sent it right back to Earth because she didn't want to spend any extra time with Creepy Clown Chris or these creepy, terrifying worms. And she managed to grab a few chunks of Swiss, luckily, before she got into the rocket. Pleading Patrick and Nibbles and Cheddar and the other mice were just waiting for her very, very nervously and patiently back on Earth. And suddenly they saw a familiar spacecraft and saw Sally come crashing down through the window. She actually didn't land very well, but she was still okay. "I'm back," Sally said as she got out of her rocket. "I told you the moon was made out of Swiss cheese, guys. Look at this. It's Swiss cheese from the moon." Whoa, it really is cheese. But before Sally could really fully bask in her victory, she lowered her voice and added, "But there's something else up there, actually. Something weird." Nibbles raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Sally hesitated, glancing around nervously. "Well, Creepy Clown Chris followed me there. And the cheese, it's alive. It's full of monsters." "Monsters?" Pleading Patrick squeaked, his fur standing on end. "I knew it. The moon was cursed. I told you shouldn't go there." Swiss Sally said, I had to go to the moon, and I proved that it was made out of Swiss cheese, so I think it was worth it," Pleading Patrick. "Even though there were monsters on the moon and Creepy Clown Chris followed me, I think it was worth it." Wow, Swiss Sally is a very adventurous mouse, and she's done a lot for mouse kind. Do you mess with Swiss Sally?